The Wuyi Mountains consist of rolling peaks and numerous valleys, with different altitudes from the mountain foot to the top. Different vegetation types reveal themselves, offering a special mountain scenery with multiple landscapes. Between 350 and 1,100 meters above sea level are patches of evergreen broad-leaved forests, dominated by large arbors of laurel and magnolia families. The leaves of these plants are often perpendicular to sun rays. This increases the surface exposed to the light for better photosynthesis. The glossy cuticle on the leaves is like natural sunscreen, protecting them from the scorching sun. In the Wuyi Mountains, the evergreen broad-leaved forests cover a quarter of the local forest area. Nearly 3,000 kinds of plants grow here. This means abundant food for insects. Out of the 34 orders of insects in the world, 31 can be found in the Wuyi Mountain National Nature Reserve. This good ecosystem also provides the birds with the most suitable habitat. On the mountain slopes, at an elevation between 1,100 and 1,600 meters, the arbors decrease. The land is taken over by mixed coniferous and broad-leaved forests. The shapes of leaves vary too. This rare China hemlock is called by locals as the thousand-hand bodhisattva. It rooted here nearly 1,000 years ago. The leaf surface is covered with a thin layer of oil, so that even when the temperature drops below zero, the leaves won't freeze. The China hemlock is endemic to the country, distributed in the Wuyi Mountains. At an altitude between 1,600 and 1,800 meters, these China hemlocks are the largest wild population in China, together with the Grand Torreya, the China yew, and other species in the pine and bald cypress families. They form the whole coniferous forest belt in the Wuyi Mountains. Elevations above 1,900 meters mean stronger winds, lower temperatures, and abundant rainfall. The plants tend to be shorter, with more branches. The low deciduous trees form the mid-mountain elfin forests. At the 2,160.8 meter peak of Mount Wangang, the wind force varies between 5 to 6 all year. It is the place with highest humidity and the most fog days in the Wuyi Mountains. Only the low-temperature-resistant wild small reed and the low Taiwan pine are capable of adapting to such harsh conditions. In spring, the mountaintop grasslands are favored by many herbivores. The vigilant hare looks for tender grass at night. The tufted deer also brings its fawn out for a taste of spring. The Wuyi Mountain National Nature Reserve covers an area of 56,000 hectares, and 29,000 hectares are well-preserved, pristine central subtropical evergreen broad-leaved forests, with a forest coverage of 96.3% and abundant flora and fauna resources. It is a precious gene bank in the world. Early spring in the Wuyi Mountains, the sea of plants is bathed by the sun, stretching their luxuriant foliage. They are ready to embrace a fresh start in the new year. In the warm and humid Wuyi Mountains, covered with evergreen broad-leafed forests, it inhabits an ancient species. Having survived the erosion of the Quaternary glaciation, it takes the most inconspicuous form and hides in the luxuriant mountain forest. Now, it is just a sapling. With a height of no more than 10 centimeters, it enjoys the damp shade provided by the mother tree. In the following 50 years, it will grow and become lignified, and eventually exceed 20 meters in height. 3 million years ago, its ancestors were about the same size. From late April to early May, the tree is in full bloom with pink flowers that look like hanging bells. It is called China Bretschneidera. The leaves of the tree are feathery and soft. Unlike most broad-leafed plants, the pores are found only on the back of the leaves. These hair-like little bumps help reduce water loss under the sunshine. Compared to other places on the same latitude, the Wuyi Mountains have the most complete, typical, and the largest central, subtropical, and primordial forest ecosystem. The China Bretschneidera has been growing here for generations. At an elevation between 500 and 2,000 meters, and near the damp valleys and slopes, the evergreen broad-leafed forest is like a huge parasol, shielding the growing sapling from the blistering sun. However, the forest also confines the growing tree. If it fails to surpass the height of its neighbors, it will have trouble making blossoms and fructifying, and therefore will face death eventually. In addition to the environmental threats, the reproductive defects of the species also drive it into a survival crisis. The flowers are hermaphroditic. Self-pollination and inbreeding can result in poor fructification quality. Furthermore, insects are also considered a threat to the ancient species. The foliage is rich in myrosinase, making it the best food for the small white during oviposition. The vulnerability and disadvantages make the once thriving China Bretschneidera in danger of extinction. Fortunately, in the Wuyi Mountain National Nature Reserve, there are several trees of this ancient species. They offer great scientific value to the study of paleogeography. Therefore, the China Bretschneidera is regarded as a national treasure. In the embrace of the Wuyi Mountains, this sapling is striving to grow. With its unchanging life form, it recalls nature's memories of its ancestors. Natural selection prevails in the Wuyi Mountains. The wisdom of survival is demonstrated everywhere. Orchids that grow in the valleys are an outstanding evidence for evolution. Behind its beauty and fragrance, there is always a brilliant method of survival. A hungry Chinese honeybee smells the strong aroma of the flowers. It is the flowery orchid that sends the sweet smells to lure the honeybee to the flowers. However, it hasn't found any nectar yet. Finally, the honeybee has managed to escape with a piece of sticky pollen stuck to its back. The honeybee hesitates, but the maroon spots on the labella of the flowery orchid imply that the nectar here is more than you need. Once again, the honeybee trusts its own experience, which results in the blending of the pollen. And so, cross-pollination is accomplished. The orchid is one of the world's most diverse plant species. In about every 20 plant species across the world, there is an orchid. The warm and humid basin of the Wuyi Mountains is home to nearly 100 kinds of orchids. Most of the orchids grow by cliffs and waterfalls between 300 and 1,600 meters above sea level. Year-round streams and calcium-rich volcanic rocks provide the best nutrients for their growth. In fact, in the orchid family, 1/3 of the species don't produce nectar. In the blooming spring of the Wuyi Mountains, how do the orchids without nectar get the honeybee to help them pollinate and reproduce? The secret lies in this special petal. Most flowers have identically shaped petals that surround the stamen and pistil, while the orchid has a petal distinctive from the others. Botanists call it the code of the orchid. The color and shape of the petal have evolved, telling the insects that there is plenty of nectar. The trick doesn't always prove effective. As a result, the fruiting rates for some orchid species are even lower than 10%. Yet the cross-pollination brings about high-quality seeds as a remedy for the low fruiting rate. Numerous orchid seeds drift in the wind. Whether by the streams or on the cliffs, they will eventually take root in the Wuyi Mountains. After 76 million years of evolution, orchids have developed remarkable wisdom and more than 20,000 different species. Nature's evolutionary process is eternal. The gurgling streams invigorate the Wuyi Mountains, and help make it a wonderful habitat for many bird species. The Wuyi Mountains are known as the paradise of birds. It is no doubt the favorite sanctuary of the silver pheasant. Often referred to by locals as the mystical phoenix, it is a species of the pheasant family. Unlike other pheasant species, the male silver pheasant has brilliant white plumage and pretty long tail feathers. That is true to its name in Chinese, which means snow white with noble elegance. The silver pheasant has been a precious pet bird in history, especially for the ancient literati. Li Bei, a famous poet in the Tang Dynasty, was very fond of the silver pheasant. He even wrote a poem asking for it as a gift. During the Qing Dynasty, it was in the patterns for the uniforms of the 5th-ranked civil officials. The body length of the male silver pheasant is usually 100 to 119 centimeters, almost twice the size of the red jungle fowl. Its upper body and wings are mainly white. The back of the male bird is covered with V-shaped dark marks. It has spurs on the red feet. The female silver pheasant has olive brown feathers and is smaller than the male bird. The dark color makes it easy to be camouflaged, so the mothers can better protect the fledglings. On the eastern slope of the Wuyi Mountains, a father is taking his chicks for a leisurely walk by the stream. 2 hours after birth, the hatchlings can already go out with their parents. They will go through molting 3 times before they look like the grown-ups in color. The spurs on the feet also grow longer with age. In the low area of the Wuyi Mountains, covered by the subtropical evergreen broadleaved forests, the vegetation coverage reaches 80%. The silver pheasant mainly inhabits woodland. They prefer the forest glade and the rocky ground for foraging. As an omnivorous bird, the silver pheasant's staple diet is moss and roots, as well as ants, snails, and other insects and mollusks as snacks. A silver pheasant goes all the way from its shelter down to the valley bottom to look for food. The male bird is strongly territorial. It usually goes hunting on its own. The silver pheasant is a polygamous species. The male bird is often seen eating with its harem hanging around. After the meal, the male silver pheasant leaves the spot, followed by his wives. The silver pheasant has a lifespan of about 12 years. They have been thriving in the Wuyi Mountains for generations. From late April to early May, the arriving groups of Asian house martins break the silence of the Wuyi Mountains. At an altitude of about 1,500 meters, the cliff of volcanic rocks and granites is the favorite nesting site for the bird. Before the rainy season, the couple needs to build a new home and prepare everything for the coming chicks. Not all of the Asian house martins make new nests every year. Some prefer the old ones due to nostalgia and renovate them for further use. As for those who need a new house, the hot spots on the cliff are always worth fighting for. The first couple of candidates fight off 2 successive attempts. To get the best location, compromise is not an option. And the defeated birds have to back out from the contest. Nesting sites for the Asian house martin are often found in the concavities and crevices of the steep rock faces. They are safe from predators and bad weather. This inverted triangle-shaped nest is a masterpiece by the Asian house martin. Compared to other swallow species, the Asian house martin enjoys flying high in the sky. Following their routines, we have found another habitat of the bird. Mount Huanggang, with an elevation of 2,160.8 meters, is the main peak of the Wuyi Mountains. The mountaintop is covered by large stretches of scrubby meadows and has little human activity. It is a paradise for the Asian house martin and other small swallows. Shrubs and meadows provide an abundant food for the birds, and also great materials for them to build nests. The swallow's nest is mainly made of mud, dry grasses, and feathers. Bringing back the materials, the swallow spits them out with saliva and piles them up with its beak. Then it uses the impact force of the head and high-frequency vibration to tamp down the mud. The first layer is done. They have time to spare. The couple takes a break, waiting for the mud to air dry before they start to build another layer. To stop the raptors from intruding, the doorway is made very small, enough for only one bird to get through at a time. The couple works really hard to build the new house. They are going to make a perfect shelter for their beloved offspring. The Wuyi Mountains have a typical subtropical monsoon climate. It is always mild and rainy in spring. Now that the rain stops and the sky is clear, a male Elliot's pheasant speeds up to look for food. Stems and leaves of the China milk vetch and the spike moss are its favorite food. The jute leaf raspberry on the high branches is also within its reach. The family just welcomed several new members. As a father, it has to find territories with enough food to offer. Five Elliot pheasant chicks go out with their mother looking for food. The Elliot's pheasant species generally practices polygamy. They breed only once a year. The mother takes meticulous care of their chicks. Still new to the world, the chicks are curious about everything, which makes their mother more worried, staying vigilant for the sign of trouble. Being endemic to China, the Elliot's pheasant is a first-class state-protected animal. The mature male bird has the back of the neck in taupe. Both sides of the neck manifest grayish-white, with metallic luster on the back. The female bird is brown on the whole body. Its throat is dotted with black spots. Pheasants are one of the ancestors of modern poultry. In 1873, Frenchman Armand David went to Chang'an County at the foot of the Wuyi Mountains and spotted some Elliot's pheasants. In 1874, the living pheasant was first introduced by David to Europe. Both the Natural History Museum in London and the American Museum of Natural History have so far preserved the specimen of the Elliot's pheasant. In China, however, it was not until the 1980s that the research of the bird had gradually commenced. As spring comes to the Wuyi Mountains, everything revives with a promising prospect. An unexpected shower brings vibrancy to the whole forest. The dusk after raining sees the most dynamic party of birds. The Chinese bamboo partridge and the red-billed blue magpie are frequenters of the wetland, although the Elliot's pheasant sees them as aggressive competitors for food. These fast-growing fledglings need to feed 6 to 7 times a day, which means their busy mothers have much more jobs to do. Suddenly, an unexpected guest trespasses on the territory of the Elliot's pheasant family. A squirrel covets their delicious food stock. In order to save the dinner for their chicks, the female birds will not compromise. Mothers have taught the chicks well. In several months, they will leave their mother's protection and face the world on their own. The foraging birds fly back to the nests. The father has found another turf with abundant food. He can't wait to bring the news back home before sunset. Spring returns in early March. In the pristine forest of the Wuyi Mountains, the insects gradually wake up from hibernation. However, from the moment they come to, a survival crisis is around the corner. because the insect-eating birds become vibrant and dynamic during the season. The vigilant blue whistling thrush forages near the streams. The larvae of bugs with shells are its favorite food in spring. Its brown eyes provide sharp and accurate vision. The bird does not like to lose its prey, especially to uninvited rivals. The plumeous water redstart often lingers on the rocks. The male bird has chestnut tail feathers, while those of the female are gray and white. When the plumeous water redstart seeks its prey, its tail flaps like a folding fan to startle the insects nearby. When the bugs fly up, it grabs them in a flash. The odds are always high. Compared to human eyes, birds have a more developed visual system. They can see 4 primary colors and 12 main color combinations. With this special ability, they can easily see through the insect's camouflage. In the Wuyi Mountains, below 2,000 meters, the deciduous woodland is home to a rare kind of bird, the pied falconet. With the body size of a sparrow, it is the world's smallest bird of prey. The pied falconet has black and white plumage, hence the name panda bird. They often stand in the canopies of large arbors to look for prey. The wide view, together with a special visual system, allow them to quickly lock onto the target. Diurnal raptors can adjust the shape of their lenses to look far and magnify the target. This makes it easy for the birds to find the prey 100 meters away. Raptors can locate their prey from a distance. As for terrestrial birds, the food within reach is more important. The endemic Cabot's tragopan is under first-class state protection in China. Most of them live at an elevation of 1,500 meters in the mixed coniferous and broadleaved forests. This heavy pheasant is not a skilled flyer. They mainly hang out on the ground, looking for fruits and seeds. Pheasants have more red oil droplets in the retina. The droplets work as filters to enhance the color contrast between the food and the soil, helping them find their delicacies more precisely. For most bird species, the special and advantageous visual systems explain the natural law of survival. More than 300 kinds of birds inhabit the Wuyi Mountains, calling and soaring for generations. The richly endowed virgin forests have become a paradise for birds. As spring arrives at the Wuyi Mountains, the weather becomes unpredictable. A spring shower wakes up the hibernating botanic kingdom. Flowers bloom in the gentle breeze. However, not all plants reproduce by flowering and fruiting. The germination of bamboo relies on underground rhizomes, which are often called bamboo whips. The culms sprout in clusters out of the rhizomes and eventually grow into new bamboos. By means of asexual reproduction, bamboos can rapidly expand their territory. They are called bamboo shoots for now. The new sprouts drill out of the half-meter thick soil and struggle to grow up. In the first 20 days, they only grow 1 to 2 centimeters a day. To become mature, they have to survive the next 2 months. Favorable climatic conditions make the Wuyi Mountains a cradle of new bamboos. In the Dazulan Basin, at an elevation of 850 meters, nearly 10 million bamboos grow. It is an important habitat of the Mazu bamboo. The annual mean temperature here is between 12 and 18 degrees Celsius. The moist and rainy spring creates the most suitable environment for new bamboos. In the following 60 days, the bamboos will grow a meter per day. After the rapid growth period, bamboo sheaths gradually shed off. The new bamboos have to rely on their joints to stand against wind and rain. This is the rite of passage for these new lives. Mature bamboos stretch their leaves to exchange energy in sunlight and release oxygen, benefiting the vulnerable species around. The Wuyi Mountains possess various landforms, offering more than 80 bamboo species, a favorable living environment. On both sides of the valleys, the checker-shaped Indocalamus open their broad leaves as a green shade above the gurgling streams. The swelling bamboo nodes are the typical feature of the swell-node poor-spike bamboo, supporting the 4-meter-high culm. On the Mount Huanggang, the highest point in South China, grows a kind of bamboo that can endure cold weather at high altitude. Compared with other species, the Wuyi Shan Yushan bamboo looks a little small. They have thin and narrow leaves. The culms grow no taller than 80 centimeters. This body size helps them survive minus 10 degrees Celsius at the top of the Mount Huanggang. They are noted for the ability to withstand cold. In late spring, the mountains are overwhelmed by the sea of bamboo. The new bamboos steadily grow up. They help conserve water and soil in the forests and form a natural wind barrier. They are like the most loyal guardians of the Wuyi Mountains. The sun shines through the misty clouds. The bitter winter is over for tea trees. Spring arrives at last. Picking spring tea leaves is the top priority for residents of the Wuyi Mountains. The rush will last until early May. Early spring in the Wuyi Mountains features big temperature differences between day and night, and high air humidity too. These conditions can stimulate the decomposition of glycosides, thus creating a mild fragrance out of fresh leaves. Here is the producing area of a famous kind of oolong tea, namely the Wuyi rock tea. Rocks that were formed after the volcano eruption eventually weathered into red gravel soil, offering the tea trees rich minerals and organic substances. They give the Wuyi rock tea a special aromatic charm. Because of the different terrain and wind directions, rock teas vary in taste. The 6 remaining mother trees of Da Hong Pao tea are the oldest provenance of rock teas. Growing tenaciously in the crevices of the cliff, they have survived for more than 360 years. All the tea trees that grow around these mother trees are their grafted descendants. Among the exposed rocks in the long and narrow valleys, rock tea trees grow in clusters. The leaves are picked and processed using special techniques to make semi-fermented tea, which usually has the fragrance of flowers. Suitable habitats for tea trees are more than the mountain gullies. Like a saddle in the fault zone of the Wuyi Mountains, the Tongmu Pass sits at an altitude of 1,100 meters. Gurgling streams flow through the lush forests. It is the territory of Lapsang Souchong, the ancestor of black tea. The annual mean temperature of the region is between 8 and 18 degrees Celsius. This keeps the tea sprouts fresh for a long time. The unique climate conditions contributes to the wildness of the Lapsang Souchong. Hence, it is regarded as the alpine nomad in tea. Pine wood is the key in making traditional Lapsang Souchong. When the dried tea leaves are baked with pine wood fire, they fully absorb the smoky flavor and eventually ferment into Souchong black tea. They were introduced to Europe in the 17th century before they became popular worldwide in the name of Wuyi tea. It is considered the first kind of black tea in the world. Wuyi Mountains are home to nearly 10,000 hectares of tea fields. The annual output reaches 21,000 tons. It is one of the world's most important tea-producing areas. Every tea leaf has absorbed the essence of nature, reflecting the charm of spring in the Wuyi Mountains. Being formed 400 million years ago and known as the roof of East China, the Wuyi Mountains lie in the junction of Jiangxi and Fujian provinces. In early April, the warm and moist monsoon from the eastern Pacific is blocked by this natural barrier. The airflow is lifted while the temperature drops. The water vapor gradually condenses. A spring shower occurs as expected. The rain penetrates the rocks. Eventually, in the Wuyi Mountains, at an altitude of 1,100 meters northwest of Tongmu Pass, the water converges into a stream. It is the headwater of the GQ Stream, or Nine Bend Stream. The stream has a total length of 62.8 kilometers. It flows all the way down to the east, running through mountains and forests before it reaches the flat and open riverbed. From here on, the GQ Stream manifests its serpentine lower course. The geological movement 65 million years ago has erected stretches of peak forests. The flowing stream meanders like a jade belt, stretching its way around the rocks and peaks with its featured 9 bends. The Danxia landforms on both sides of the GQ Stream are dominated by red glutenite, which is easily eroded due to its loose structure. Carved by Mother Nature for millennia, various forms of rock pillars and precipices make up the magnificent landscapes of the Wuyi Mountains. One of the most remarkable views is the strip of sky. The strip of sky in the Wuyi Mountains is due to the small rift formed by fracturation. Under constant water erosion, it gradually expanded and extended to form the steep gorge. The shady and airy environment is also a favorite habitat for bats. Along its 9 bends, the GQ Stream eventually sews 36 peaks and 99 ridges together. The lush mountains are all surrounded by lucid waters. On the other side of the Wuyi Mountains, the merge between mountains and waters continues in another way. Granite and glutenite are major components of the rocks. Eroded by running waters, the rocks are dissolved with slightly acidic materials. The slightly acidic water helps plants absorb nutrients better. Thanks to excellent water resources, the forest coverage of the Wuyi Mountains is 96.8%. In the same latitude zone, it has the most intact subtropical forest system. These water-nourished plants, during their growth, release water vapor through transpiration to form ever-changing mists in the mountains. Before you notice it, raindrops condense from the mist and return the water to the forests.